Music cut out on my end. I hope I can still hear everybody. I'm John Ryan. Welcome to the Full Count MLB show powered by SportsMemo.com. And I'm pleased to have two of the finest MLB professional bettors on the planet with Jeff Michaels and Rocky Atkinson. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. It's a beautiful day on the East Coast, so no games are going to be canceled on the East Coast, and I don't think any games will be canceled, period. But there are some great matchups here, and we're going to tear down three of these games in great detail, and we'll come up with best bets, and that will be at the end of the show, and that's always the last segment and the most fun and the most difficult. Let's start with the first one here, and that game is let's get that slide up there. Braves and Phillies. We're going to look at that game. This is an excellent matchup, in my opinion. Phillies now without Bryce Harper. And one of the questions I have for both of you is, can this offense, which ranks in the top five in several categories in Major League Baseball, maintain enough offense to get into maybe the first week in August unscathed and still in contention for the wild card berth? I think that's the key. I'll give you a hint. I think they can. I think Schwarber now is just he's hitting the crap out of the ball, period. I think he has 18 homers now in the year, and that's definitely in the top three in the National League. So I think they can. It's a question of whether that bullpen can get straightened out. Tonight, they really shouldn't have to worry too much about the bullpen and who's going to come in, because Zach Wheeler's on the hill, and he arguably is pitching for the second straight monthly award as the best pitcher in baseball for that month in the National League. He won it in May. I mean, just look at the stats. His stats are 2.77 ERA on the season. And, he throws that heavy fastball with a lot of late breaking action. And the Braves are an excellent team. I'm not going to say anything bad about them at all. They are the reigning world champs, for goodness sake. A lot of those guys have uppercut swings. Some of the other ones are more of the Charlie Lau type of swing. But that heavy fastball I've seen time and time again now is what gets these uppercut swings to ground a ball into the dirt weakly and make an easy play for a shortstop or a third baseman or an infielder, period. So let's start with Rocky Atkinson. And welcome to the show, Rocky. How's everything going for you? And then tear this thing down for us and tell us where to put our money.
Thanks, John. Glad to be back here on Tuesday with you. Looking at the Braves and the Phillies here, we have Atlanta 42-32 on the season. Philadelphia is 39-35 this year. And just want to mention that you made a comment a couple of shows back, maybe even 3 weeks ago, about Philadelphia was a team to possibly play on, and they've been hot. They're 18-6 in June so far. But the Braves have been hot as well. They're 19-5 so far in June. So two hot teams here coming in. I would say that Charlie Morton has underperformed so far here this year. He's 4-3 with a 4.84 ERA, but he's starting to come around a little bit here lately. As over the past three starts, he has a 2.70 ERA. And during those three starts, this stood out to me big time here. 32 strikeouts compared to only one walk in his last three starts. And you mentioned the Phillies and their offense. Here lately, they've struggled. They're scoring only 3.3 runs per game the last 7 games overall. They have a team batting average during that time of only 213. Atlanta's 9-2 their last 11 road games. Atlanta's 6-1 the last 7 road games against right-handed starters. The Braves are 11-3 the last 14 games against right-handed starters overall. They're 44-17 their last 61 games after a loss, and they're 41-16 their last 57 games after allowing 5 runs or more in their previous game. And throw in the fact that Atlanta's won 5 of the last 7 meetings here overall in this series. And this is not a game I really love a whole lot, but I'm going to recommend a small play on the Braves here tonight.
Good breakdown there, Rocky. And news report, it just came out not too long ago. Bryce Harper's thumb is going to require surgery. He'll be out at least 6 weeks. That goes, beyond the first week in August now. And then you have rehab after that. I mean, it could be, arguably, it could be September by the time he comes back. Defensively, I think the Phillies actually are better with a different outfielder out there than him. He has a cannon of an arm. But in terms of tracking balls and stuff, that has not been his expertise. I saw they claimed Marcado off the waiver wire this afternoon, and I think that was very, very good. But to your point, Rocky, they're not scoring runs in the bunches that they were during the win streak. And thank you very much for bringing that up because that was a Jesse Scholl pizza that he owes me. And the Phillies weren't supposed to close the gap, nor the Braves for that matter, on the Mets. And I think the last time I checked, the Braves are breathing down their necks like 4.5 or 5 games out. Phillies are in single digits now too, and I think if the Phillies can keep it within single digits, they could make a run. What year was it? 2011 when the Mets had an 8-game lead with 2 weeks to go in the regular season, and they basically lost them all while the Phillies won them all. And they lost a couple, but I'm exaggerating a little bit. But they blew it on the second to last game of the regular season. The Mets did, and why can't that happen again? The Mets are not the New York Yankees. Let's put it that way. The only thing in common is that they are in the city of New York. Let's go over to Jeff Michaels and see what he's got in this matchup and any golden nuggets for us to take advantage of.
Yeah, guys, I'm going to talk a little more on the sides, actually, in the best bet section. But, two different angles that I do like on this game is, I like Charlie Morton actually under the 6.5 strikeout total. I know Rocky mentioned it that he's had some good strikeout numbers, but in those 2 standout performances, 2 of them were, or the 2 double-digit performances that he put up in strikeouts were against San Francisco and Pittsburgh, who are 2 of the bottom 4 teams in the last 20 games when it comes to strikeouts. So he's faced, relatively easier competition in terms of the strikeouts, and he hasn't put up those same strikeout numbers on the road. He's striking out almost 2 batters less per game or per 9 innings on the road this season. And he only struck out the Phillies 4 times in the last time that they played. Not to mention the Phillies are one of the better teams, striking out just 7.4 times per game in the last 10. But I do like the under 2 in this game a little bit. Like Rocky mentioned too, Philadelphia's offense has been struggling a little bit. And there's real concern that Ronald Acuña could end up back on the IL after fouling that ball off his foot. He was struggling to put any weight or any pressure on that foot after it happened. So there's a chance that this offensive team could be without Acuña too. So I think the under could be in play as well.
I like it, Jeff. Great information there. Let's move over to the second game of the 3 games that we're breaking down. And that involves I believe the Milwaukee Brewers. Just a second here. There we go. Milwaukee Brewers are playing the Tampa Bay Rays. And this is an interleague matchup, obviously. And over-under here is 7 on the Brewers Rays. And that would, right away, your gut reaction is to bet the over. But my personal opinion, for what it's worth, my 2 cents, is I lean towards the under right away. And that has a lot to do with these pitchers that are playing in this game. Milwaukee is basically a -110. It's basically a pick'em game. Tampa Bay is 40-32, and they're coming off a brutal, brutal schedule, having to play the Yankees 6 times. They did miserable against them, and now they've kind of righted the ship, winning 3 of the last 4. Milwaukee has underperformed, and it must be something out there in the Midwest because the Chicago White Sox are supposed to run away with the Central in the American League. The Milwaukee Brewers were supposed to run away with the National League Central. At least that's what we were told preseason. But neither one of them have done it, and they're playing miserable baseball. And the thing that I do not like about the Brewers, and I'll say it again and again and again, until somebody hears me on that Brewers organization and they make the change, is that they're an uppercut team. They rank in the top 5 in home runs hit. I think they're third, 1.3 per game. Where do they rank in batting average? You have to get on base to score, don't you? That's the number one thing, on base percentage. If you get a walk, that's just as good as a single in my book. And that's not what the Brewers do. The Tampa Bay Rays, though, are a fundamentally sound team, at least more fundamentally sound in terms of being able to advance runners, hit behind runners. The pitch is away and you shoot it through that that big, gigantic hole because of the shift, then you do it, and you're not embarrassed to do it. And I like teams like that. But until Milwaukee starts learning that you have to get on base to score runs and you just don't hit home runs to win games, I don't think they're going to challenge in the division. Let's start out with Jeff Michaels and see what he has to say about that.
Yeah, one of the biggest things in this game, though, that caught my attention is Tampa Bay's record in interleague play in the last 2 years, which has been unbelievable. They're 25-6 in interleague play in the last 2 seasons, and they're 17-1 against National League teams hitting 245 or less. They're 21-4 against National League teams with an on-base percentage of 325 or less, which includes this season. They're 10-1 in interleague play, and they're allowing just 2.8 runs per game. So I do find myself leaning Tampa Bay a little bit in this one, but I do like the first half total over that 3.5. I mean, Shane Baz is on the mound for the Rays, and he's making just his 4th start. But in his lone home start of the year, which did come against the Yankees, he only allowed 1 earned run on 4 hits in just 4 2/3 innings. But the Rays have won 4 out of the last 5. And Tampa Bay's 43-16 against starting pitchers who last less than 5 innings per start in the last 2 years. While Brandon Woodruff on the mound for Milwaukee looks like the better pitcher from his history this season, he's posted an ERA on the road of over 8, and his whip's over 1.8 away from home this year. He's been 2 totally different pitchers between home and away. The team's won all 4 of his home starts, but they're just 2-3 in his road starts. So not a super heavy bet on the Rays, but I do like the Rays, I think, in this one to take another interleague game.
Nice breakdown, Jeff. I can see why. I think the Rays are the better team. I think I made that point pretty clear in my little introduction there, where I was abusing the ratio between home runs and batting average. That doesn't get it done too many times. Let's move over to Rocky Atkinson, who knows probably a lot more than I do with fundamentals in baseball. Let's see what this baseball mind has to say.
Thanks, John. We got Milwaukee 42-33 on the season. Tampa Bay's 40-32 so far this year. Jeff covered a lot of stuff that I'm going to talk about as well. Brandon Woodruff gets to start here for Milwaukee, and he's been incredible over the last couple of years or whatever. But this year he's 5-3 with a 4.74 ERA overall, and he's 1-3 with a 8.14 ERA on the road this season. So he hasn't done that well away from home. Shane Baz gets called for the Rays here. He has 1 start at home this year. He has a 1.93 ERA there. Tampa Bay 10-1 in interleague play this year, just like Jeff said, allowing only 2.8 runs per game. And going back over the past 3 years, they are a very nice 40-17 in interleague play. They're 34-14 last 3 years when the total was 7 or less. They're 8-0 their last 8 games against the National League Central Division. They're 89-33 their last 122 home games against right-handed starters. And they're 71-33 the last 104 home games overall. I'm going to agree with Jeff here, and I'm going to recommend a small play on Tampa Bay in this one.
And I agree with both of you. I think Tampa Bay is definitely the bet here in this matchup. Until Milwaukee can prove me wrong, I can't see my models or myself even leaning towards Milwaukee, because I just don't trust what they're going to do offensively. And you do have to score a run, don't you, to win a game? That's for sure. Doesn't have to be a hit. It has to be a run. Anyway, let's move on to the third and final game. And this one's out west. It involves the Padres and the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks are the host, playing at Chase Field. This game starts at 9:40 Eastern Standard Time tonight. The Padres have Sean Manaea on the hill, 3-3 with a 3.87 ERA. Pretty good form there. 45-30 is the record of the San Diego Padres, trying to chase down those Dodgers. They did have a lead for a brief period of time. I think it was 2 days before they gave it back, but they're playing well. And when Fernando Tatis comes back, that lineup really will change. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, but A guy named Zach Gallen is on the hill, who is also pitching very well. The Diamondbacks are fourth in the National League West. It's a divisional matchup. He is 4-2, ERA 2.92. They're 8 games under 500, but I think they play better than that. They play more like a 500 team, in my opinion. Let's start with Rocky Atkinson on this matchup and see where he can lead us to the window with a really good bet here.
Yeah, we had this matchup, I think it was last week, but they were playing in San Diego, and I think you and myself, John, both had Arizona that matchup. We lost in extra innings, 3-2, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
So we got San Diego coming in 45-30, Arizona 33-41 on the season. Sean Manaea's 3-3 with a 3.87 ERA overall this year. He's 1-1 with a 3.80 ERA on the road this season. And he's 3-1 with a 2.89 ERA in his 5 career starts versus Arizona. Zach Gallen's pitched well this year also, but he's 0-1 with a 4.91 ERA his last 3 starts. San Diego's played solid on the road this year, 24-14, and they're scoring 5.4 runs per game away from home. Arizona's 5-16 this year against division opponents, where they're scoring only 2.8 runs per game. And they have a team batting average of only 183. Going back a little farther, Arizona's 21-63 the last 84 games against division opponents. And Arizona's 20-43 the last 63 games against left-handed starters. San Diego's 6-0 their last 6 games when playing with a day off. And San Diego's 17-8 their last 25 games after a loss. Also, San Diego's won 6 of the past 7 meetings overall versus Arizona this year. I'm going to recommend a small play on San Diego here in this one.
I like it, Rocky. I mean, I'm in unison with you. I'm in sync because this is a perfect example of what I was talking about. San Diego ranks 10th in the Major League Baseball, scoring 4.627 runs per game. Hits per game, they're 15th. Home runs per game, they're 24th. Averaging 0.84 homers per game. What is Arizona? Arizona, they rank 23rd, scoring 4.068 runs per game. Their batting average ranks 29th. Remember that, 29th, averaging 216. Guess where they rank in home runs, guys? 11th best in Major League Baseball, 1.162. What does that get you? A lot of home runs and under 500 record. Little shout out to Christian Walker, though. He's doing real well this year in the top 5, I believe, National League in homers. He played youth baseball for a national travel team called the Boys of Baseball that I was involved with and that my son played for. And granted, this is going back a little bit, but that Boys of Baseball travel team, we got to play at some really incredible venues, such as Gainesville, such as Omaha, where Mississippi gave it to Oklahoma last 2 nights ago. In the bottom of the 8th and the 9th inning. But little shout out to Christian Walker. They're having a great year, but that's one guy can't win the games. Jeff Michaels, what do you think of this ratio of mine? Teams that are better hitters, less home runs, seem to be doing better.
Like you said, it's all about how many runs you can get across. When you're putting up a bunch of solo home runs, it doesn't get the job done. Even a 2 RBI single. A single can score more runs than a home run pretty easily when you're putting multiple players on base. And, I think that goes to the point, too, that like you said with San Diego, when they get Tatis back, well, they're without Machado, too. So that makes that lineup even more fearful, impressive, whatever you want to call it. But, Rocky said a lot of what I was thinking about this game too, but, dating back to the last couple of starts, like he said, he looked at Gallen in the last 3 and he struggled. And in Gallen's last 7 starts, he's just 2-2 with a 4.66 ERA. So both of his decided losses on the season in 13 starts have come within the last 7. So he started a little better than he's ended, but like Rocky said, with the divisional opponents that Arizona's played, putting up just 2.8 runs and a team batting average of just 183. I like the under in this game too. Arizona's just 13-24 over under at home this season. And they've gone under the total in 13 out of 17 games at home against teams over 500. Not to mention San Diego's 8-18 over under after a loss this year. So, both these pitchers have the ability to shut down the offenses, and I don't see a super high scoring game in this one, even though that total 7.5. I'm looking under.
That's a great breakdown, Jeff. And I'm not going to belabor the point other than mentioning at-bats per home run. Arizona ranks 10th with 28 plate appearances to get one home run. It requires 40% more at-bats for San Diego to get a home run. They need 41 at-bats to get one home run. They rank 25th in Major League Baseball in that category. And that's a category you want to be basically 25th or dead last among that group. All right, enough about that. Now we're going to move on to the fun part of the show. And the most interesting, I guess, is that when we get pressured into our best bet segment, and they don't have to be on these three games. It can be off of these three games. It can be any game that is playing on the card. Tonight, we had one game earlier today, first game of a doubleheader between Minnesota Twins and the Cleveland Guardians. But let's start with Jeff here for his best bet for the show. Then I will go next, and then Rocky can bring up the anchor.
All right, guys. Yeah, today's best bet, John. I went with one of your favorites tonight. I like these Phillies tonight at the -115. Like I mentioned earlier, there's reports that Acuna couldn't put much of any pressure on his foot after fouling that ball off. And these lineups are very comparable when you take out an Acuna and you take out a Harper, if not favoring the Phillies even. Atlanta's already lost 6 straight games as an underdog, and they're just 1-7 in Charlie Morton's last 8 road starts against teams over 500. Morton's got an ERA of 5.63 on the road, and the team's just 2-5 in his 7 road starts. And not to mention his ERA in night starts is over 6. Even though Morton's put up a pretty good record, he's allowed a hefty chunk of runs, and now he's going up against Zach Wheeler, and he's got a lineup that could potentially be without Acuna, and if they do have him, he's definitely not at 100%. Wheeler snapped a 6 straight consecutive starts run of quality starts, due to a little bit of a lack of support from that offense and some poor defense, but he went 99 pitches and got just 13 outs, but he still has a 2.77 ERA on the year. In the last 7 starts, he's 5-1, and his ERA is a 1.67. And Phillies had a good history after putting up a game like they did in the last one. They're 13-3 this year after putting up 8 or more runs, including a 7-0 record at home. And they're 14-5 in their last 19 games off back-to-back wins, which includes a 6-1 record at home and a 10-2 record as a favorite this year. So I do like the Phillies tonight on this money line.
Yeah, I agree with you too. I think they have the lineup to be able to do this. And remember last year, I think Atlanta, when they made their big run, Acuna was not in the lineup for a lot of that stretch, if I remember right. Tell me if I'm wrong, of course. And who's to say that the Phillies can't do the same thing here in the National League East? The Mets fans have to love that these Braves and Phillies are going to play each other for a few games here. But guess who's in town at Citi Field? The Houston Astros are playing the Mets. So I don't know which is worse or better. I certainly wouldn't want to play the Houston Astros right now, who no-hit the Yankees. And I'm happy to say I was on Houston in that game. That felt pretty good. I didn't say they were going to have a no-hitter, though. I guess I could have taken a prop bet just for pizza money, but never entered my head that a team as good as the Yankees could be no-hit. Anyway, great job, Jeff. My best bet, I'm looking at the Boston Red Sox tonight and the Toronto Blue Jays. This is the Major League Baseball betting angle of the day for Tuesday, June the 28th. And the play is under. And I might note that this system will be applicable tomorrow's game between Boston and Toronto Blue Jays. So you're getting 2 picks right now based on this one system. And the key with these systems is you play them methodically, the same amount of money each and every day. Whether you use pizza money, $10, $20, that's fine. Make sure you stick with that. If you bet $100 a game or $1,000, whatever it is, you just keep methodically. It sounds boring, but you just keep methodically doing that. And you can see at the bottom there what the results are. So this system is bet under when the game is lined between 8.5 and 10 runs. Team has won 15 of the last 20 games. Actually, it's 19 out of 23 right now for the Boston Red Sox. And both teams have won 50 to 60% of their games. To clarify, it cannot be a an even record at 500. It has to be one game over 500, up to and including 60% of their games on the season. This has hit 67.4% of the time, 41, 20, and 4 pushes betting the under. At $100 better doing this for the last 5 seasons, just sitting back and doing this methodically. I mean, you could make the bet and go play golf and not even watch the game. That's what I like. $2,250, 32% ROI, last 5 seasons. Bet the under tonight and bet the under again tomorrow in the Boston Red Sox Toronto Blue Jays. Let's move over to Rocky Atkinson, who is definitely the best anchor among the guys that are on these shows. He was the anchor last year for the NFL show. And Rocky, that NFL stuff is going to be coming up pretty soon. But in this show, what do you have for us in a best bet for this show?
All right, John, I'm going to take a look at the Houston Astros taking on the Mets in New York tonight. Houston's 45-27. The Mets come in 47-27 on the season. Framber Valdez is 7-3 with a 2.90 ERA overall this year, 4-1 with a 1.95 ERA on the road this season. Carlos Carrasco is 1-2 with an 8.78 ERA his last 3 starts. Houston's allowing only 3.1 runs per game last 7 games overall, allowing teams a combined 167 batting average during that time. Houston's 8-1 the last 9 road games against right-handed starters. Houston's 9-2 the last 11 games against teams with a winning record. They've won 27 of the past 37 games when facing right-handed starters, and they're 65-27 the last 93 games when playing with a day off. The Mets, on the other hand, 3-7 their last 10 interleague games, and they're 3-9 their last 12 games against the American League West Division. Houston's won 5 in a row in this series. So I'm going to play Houston Astros. That's my best bet here on the show.
Great job, Rocky. And before I let you guys go, Rocky, what do you have going at SportsMemo tonight or later this week that you know of?
Well, I do have a top Major League Baseball play loaded here for tonight. That's all I've got loaded up right now. I am 141-90, 61%. My last, 231 top Major League Baseball plays.
That's awesome. That is really awesome. Jeff Michaels, what do you have going on over at SportsMemo tonight?
Yeah, I actually have a big one. I got a 5-unit MLB game of the week up there today. I'm on a 75% run in my MLB plays of 5 units and higher, cashed on 21 out of the last 28. And that's up there for under $10 for you to get for tonight's action too. So go check that one out.
Great stuff, Jeff. I have WNBA and 2 baseball picks. One is in action tonight. It's the under in the Minnesota game that's taking place now. I have no idea what the score is, guys, but hopefully it's under, or if it's over, it's over, as they say. But $2 cappers today is $2 Tuesday. I want to give a shout out to these guys, Eric Pauly. Well, actually, it's only 2 guys and a gal, Dion D'Amico and Jesse Scholl, my West Coast adversary, rival. I think I'm going to call him a rival now, Rocky, since you have a nickname, the Southern Assassin. We have to come up with a nickname for the Vancouver. What's a V? We have to think about this after the show. Vancouver something. We'll come up with something funny or maybe just abusive. That would probably be better. But make sure you get over to sportsmemo.com and get the $2 guys today. $5. You can get all 3 of their best bets. One of those I saw was a 5% top-rated play. I believe that was Eric Pauly who had that. You want to get these guys' plays. It's $5. I mean, it's less than half a pint of beer, for goodness sake. No reason not to do it. Also, we're coming up on 5,000 followers on YouTube subscribers, which will be a pretty good benchmark for us. It hasn't taken all that long for us to go from basically 700 now up to challenging 5,000. And I remember the days where we had the 700 and you start thinking, boy, oh boy, are we ever going to get to 1,000? And then you hit 1,000. Then all of a sudden you hit 2,500. Now we're coming up to some pretty big numbers. And of course, after this, we're going to look and target to get up to 10,000 sometime during the football season, which I think we can do. So until tomorrow, when Joe D'Amico will be the host for the Full Count Show, always remember 2 things. Bet with your head, not over it, and may all the wins be yours. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.